Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Happy Workers' Day, Happy New Month. Welcome to May. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, living in denial of employees' realism, a wake-up call for the HR professional or practitioners. Let me start by saying that the conceptualization of this topic is not my idea. Is that of a colleague, highly respected colleague, Sadatu Farouk, who is the head learning and career development with Security Exchange Commission Abuja. We were supposed to do the session last week and we had to move it to this week, and then again she wasn't available. So we decided that I will run with it. She was also kind and gracious enough to share a slide with me. I just did a few modifications and additions here and there, so that I can own the slide. And that's why I'm starting this session by giving her full acknowledgement and full due recognition. Thank you so much, Sadatu Farouk, for this idea of this particular topic. Living in denial of employee realism, a wake-up call for the HR profession. My name is Oluyemi Oshun, and I have about 22 years HR experience in 13 organizations, 13 industries. So I've been around, I've moved around, and I'm a member of the Charter of Personal Management. I'm also a distinguished Toastmaster. I have a PhD in economics, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on with respect to this presentation, these are some of the things we'll look at. This is the course content for today's presentation. At some point, we'll also throw it open. If you like to contribute, you have ideas you want to share, or you have experience you want to share, or you have questions, you want to ask around this subject matter, please feel free to chime in. All you just need to do is to raise your hands, and we'll recognize you so that you can contribute. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining. All right. But sometimes it may not be intentional, and it may not be malicious, but HR and by extension management might be ignoring or downplaying certain concerns about and certain realities about employees. And the denial or downplaying or underestimating can manifest in various ways. For example, we get feedback, subtle feedback, indirect feedback, direct feedback, or even feedback from polls or employee survey, or feedback for example, from exit or do nothing serious about it, neglecting workplace issues, failing to address burnout and well-being concerns, and so on and so forth. I've also, for example, had managers, leaders, business owners, even HR colleagues tell employees that, look, I don't care whatever problem you have, but when you get to that gate, that front door, please drop your problem. We are here to work. When you are going back home, feel free to pick your problem outside. Again, are we being realistic? Is this real or is this fiction? Ladies and gentlemen, genuinely, can we truly and indeed say that employees are separate from the pressures, from the anxieties, from their aspirations, from their frustrations that is around them? And that is why we're looking at this topic today. I know that increasingly, I write and a stake and in leveraging data analytics. What about the non-quantifiable dimensions and perspective. Some of you know, I'm a researcher. I have 57 publications as at date. We have what we call qualitative and quantitative research. Then we have what we call mixed research. What's mixed research? A mixed research generally leverages both quantitative and qualitative data. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to be real, both hardcore numbers, things that can be literally quantifiable, and social things, emotional things, psychological things have to both count. You know, sometimes you have to make a presentation to management, you have to make a business case, and so on and so forth. And then you make the business case strictly only on numbers. And this business case is about people. It's about the customers. It's about the stakeholders who have humans in them. While I will not agree that you should do a business case without numbers, without running the nitty-gritty data insights, you should run both qualitative and quantitative numbers and ideas and information and data. This is very, very fundamental. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we progress in this conversation, what is living in denial of employee realism? Just to provide additional context to what I've highlighted so far. For example, we can assume employees will always be motivated if there is a bonus, or if we increase their salary, or if we give them certain cash awards. Well, they may be, they may not. Or some may be, some may not. Another realism we may be ignoring or undermining is when we ignore the mental, the emotional, or financial struggles people face. Sometimes some of us may even begin to treat the word burnout as a what? As a buzzword instead of a red flag. Let me mention another one that we are familiar with. My mental health. In fact, some of us have turned that phrase, my mental health, to a joke, so that once anybody mentions mental health now, we almost think that person is saying mental health to get away from an assignment, a deadline, or a task, and almost discount as if people do not have mental health problems or pressure. Again, we excessively focus on hardcore data strictly to measure productivity, but we don't also check maybe data around employee well-being and wellness. In other words, we are acting like employees are corporate machines, are hardware, core hardwares, instead of complex, evolving humans. You see, again, in my HR journey, hopefully time permitting, I'll share a few experiences I can remember and recall. But there's one experience, example, or illustration I like to use. Do you know that when you hire a youth corper, for example, maybe the person is single, is a guy, maybe he's living with his aunt or uncle or something. Do you know that in this instance, this particular example, this corper may be closing late. Why? The person is trying to spend as minimal time as possible at home, maybe because of domestic assignment and chores he or she is trying to avoid. In your own estimation, you may think, oh, this guy is hardworking, he puts in extra hours. Then, because you think he's hardworking, dedicated, putting extra hours, you staff him, you give him full employment, you transition him from a corper to a full paid employee after his service here. Then, of course, his income goes up, After a while, he's able to rent a little apartment, maybe in Bagada or Guarimpa or in Rayfield in Jos. And then he sets up and furnishes an apartment. Now he's eager to close early or on time, wants to go home and watch DSTV. There's no relative hovering around him. Then what will you begin to think? You say, oh, after we starve this guy, he's no longer committed. I just use that example to show how an employee can evolve in a spate of 2, 3 years quickly. Of course, by the time you introduce other dynamics, maybe the guy has a girlfriend or gets married, then complicate it a little, give birth to 1 or 2 children, you see the dynamism around this employee playing out. Still speaking around living in employee realism, the denial. Again, we want to disregard or downplay employee concerns, leading to disengagement and mistrust. Sometimes, outrightly, we want to avoid discussions about workplace issues. In other words, we are failing to address problems. Some of these problems include, but not limited to, workload. Ladies and gentlemen, some of our colleagues are working excessively. They are sharing an excessive portion of the work. You may be shocked that in departments, maybe hypothetically a department of 7, 3 people may be doing the work of 6 people. 2 or 1 person may be lounging. But are you even aware as HR when some of the colleagues try to highlight some of these challenges, these issues? How receptive are we to it? Again, work-life balance that has, so to speak, metamorphosed into work-life integration is almost becoming a buzzword. People even say, oh, work and life cannot balance. That if you don't work, don't you need to work so that you can get money to even enjoy and relax? Things as basic as leave entitlement. I was in a conversation some few weeks ago, and I was hearing how some of my colleagues were almost bantering us with respect to how their staff had excessive number of unused leave. Someone was saying, oh, most of my staff didn't even use up to 50% of their leave in 2024. That's last year. And they were almost saying it like a bragging, come on. Then look at how in some organizations, in some contexts, subtly, we have normalized toxic behavior. Just a few days ago, I was talking with a CFO, someone very close to me, and he told me how he got in, he changed his organization, was managing a team of about 16. More than half of the team members were even older than him in terms of age. We had quality experience and the likes. And he said, one day, one of the slightly matured subordinates he manages spoke to him, said, sir, you are shouting on me. He said he kept quiet. And then he said, you are becoming fond of shouting on all of us. That was what a turning point for this particular professional. Thank God that person was bold enough to give him that feedback. Some of us on this call, our CEOs shout, our chairmen shout, or chairpersons. Are we even able to find a professional, polite way to let them know that this should not be a normal behavior? And then these toxic bad behaviors begin to what? Begin to cascade. In the Nigerian context, ladies and gentlemen, we have almost made one-man business synonymous with toxic environment. In other words, they can say anything. At the earliest convenience, they threaten you with loss of job or a reduction in compensation or perks and benefits, or they even make life miserable for you. Again, another way organizations, so to speak, deny employee realism is that when the employees are even comfortable and able to even bring some of these issues up, guess what happens? We flip it and put the blame squarely on the employee. The responsibility that management should bear, we are now transferring it to the employees rather than either acknowledging our own internal challenges, some of our systemic issues, even though I agree that there are many instances where employees may have a role to play or may contribute to the challenge. But at least, what is the role of management? Sometimes too, we justify negative behaviors. We rationalize toxic behaviors. We normalize poor management practices as part of the job or necessary for success. You will hear statements like, if you can't stand if you can't stand it, get out of the kitchen. Is it always so that all work environment must be toxic? That all line managers must be bullish, aggressive, and just uncaring? Ladies and gentlemen, again, increasingly, we have organizations with lack of transparency, withholding information, or hiding behind bureaucratic processes. You know, one of the places I used to work way back, one employee came to meet me one day. He said, "Sir, from time to time, we hear the MD say we are not making money. How come we've never had the MD say we made money before?" You know, that question made me to pause. That is true. I have never had the MD say, "Oh, this month or this quarter, we made money." But from time to time, maybe when we fall short of our revenue targets and the likes, we will loud it. You will see emails flying left, right, and center. Extra MPRs. A friend of mine who used to work in a bank, I will mention the bank, of course, but some of us can relate and can get some of these banks, told me how their MPRs, that it was atypical that people would be crying, even in the presence of their colleagues. Some who are slightly stronger at the earliest opportunity to excuse from the MPR sessions, they go to the convenience and cry. Ladies and gentlemen, how did we get here? How did we get here? And these suggestions are by no means exhaustive. You are also free to please drop additional insights and input on the chats on the go. Again, if you like to contribute at any point in this conversation, feel free to raise your hands. I'll recognize you and give you the floor. One of the ways we got here is what we call legacy thinking. And when we say legacy thinking, we are talking about in the beginning. And by that beginning, it may be when we started the organization, the way we set it up. You see, HR was built to, some people will say, oh, HR, just be managing. You don't need to understand. You don't need to understand the peculiarities of individuals. That if you pay too particular attention to individual needs, thoughts, concerns, that you won't get anything done in this organization. Everybody comes with a bundle of problems. That an organization started in a certain way does not mean we must continue to run that organization in that certain way. You will hear, where were you when I started this company 22 years ago, 30 years ago? The methods and approaches 28 years ago, 11 years ago might have been appropriate. Maybe when the organization started, maybe it was a setup, a startup. Maybe you had 10 staff, you are closely knitted, you are personal in certain ways. Some things were okay, but now you are supposed to be a proper corporate organization. Should we still be shouting 22 years, 25 years down the line? Shouldn't we have systems and processes in place that manages our performance processes without being rude or condescending? Even if we need to take people out, we can, and we take them out politely. I like to share this example. I'm sure we've seen it in movies, and many of us have traveled to one country or the other, where the police, for example, in UK or in some other civilized crimes, they'll be talking to you. Maybe you just committed a crime or you infringe a traffic, maybe a traffic violation, and they say, please, can you step out of your vehicle, sir? Can you please raise your hand, sir? Can you put your hands behind you, sir? What are they doing? They are running you through a possible disciplinary process, but yet they are polite. They are courteous. Ladies and gentlemen, how did we get here? Top-down culture. Over-emphasizing on strategy over empathy. Instead of strategy and empathy, we are making it strategy or empathy. Some business owners, some business leaders will even say, HR, you are too mushy. Oh, HR, you are too soft with these people. I don't want HR that is soft. Hey, can you imagine people are confident, comfortable coming to your office or to your workstation? HR, you should be passing and people should be shivering. Come on. Isn't it productivity we're trying to achieve? Is productivity strictly exclusive of being empathetic? Ladies and gentlemen, the myth of professionalism. There is this subtle mindset by business leaders. And when each time I mention business leaders, it includes HR leaders too, please. Especially in this climate, that once you are professional, it means devoid of what? Emotions. Just get things done. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure sometimes in our life, we might have been to the hospital, either as a patient or as a caregiver, maybe providing support for a family member, a friend, or a loved one. Yes, you can be professional. You want to give injection to a patient, but you will still be what? Polite. You will still be choosing your words carefully. You will still be appealing to the emotions of the clients or patients in this context. Look, we are not machines. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not robots. If you like, tomorrow morning, when you are driving your car to work, don't greet your car. Your car doesn't give a hoot. Don't say thank you to your vehicle. It doesn't give a hoot. But humans are not like that. Again, and I've given this example in a few places when conversations were around something similar to this, that if you have ever facilitated a training in any setting or context, I mean a paid training where the participants paid you money for the training, or the organizers, maybe it's a corporate training, the company invited you, they paid, and maybe you did a full day training or a 3-hour training, and after the session, ladies and gentlemen, after the training session, nobody says thank you. So I'm not even talking about maybe this kind of webinar that you say, okay, it's free, nobody paid. I'm talking about even the participants, they probably even paid. Let's say they even paid directly. You will notice that if you are the facilitator and you finish the training and nobody thanks you, no appreciation, but you are paid, maybe you are paid 5 million naira, you are paid 1 million naira, something in you will feel sad. I don't know if anybody can relate with what I'm saying. In fact, you almost feel like, what kind of people or team is this? What am I trying to show? That compensation financially is not sufficient. That is why we also need what? Appreciation. And appreciation in this context is emotional. So we need to thank people, we need to appreciate people, we need to show concern to people, we need to know people. You know, when you are a team leader, for example, maybe if you are new in that team, initially, it may be okay, you know, as you get along with your colleagues, that you are asking your colleague, for example, maybe a colleague that has children, you say, how are the children? How are the children? But it will get to a time to show that you are developing rapport and relationship and connection. You will not even just be saying, the children. You will now be mentioning the names of the children. How is Juliet? How is Felix? Mentioning those students' name is more connecting than just saying, how are the children? And without being intrusive, that is how we show concern. Somebody comes late to work, the first thing you do, in quotes, in line with company policy, you issue a query. Explain why disciplinary actions should not be taken against you for coming 30 minutes late. Ladies and gentlemen, I remember the last time I had to issue, last set of queries I had to issue. On every instance, before I issue the query, I'll first of all call the person, have a conversation with the person, hear the person out, feel the person, get the full context, even have an idea of where we are going or not going. Then I will not say, brother, please, standard process, I need to issue you a query. Please, don't upset. Is that okay? Guess what? I now issue the query. But some of us, the first thing they just see from you, email, subject of the email, query. We can't just be cold and mechanical. I know people still say it a lot. They say, why do you want to join HR? You hear, I'm a people person. Are we still people persons? Or are we now AI, cold, calculated? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm checking the chat. Thank you for keeping the comments coming in. Imagine. Thank you, Wumi. You have been told HR is not supposed to be laughing with employees. I've had it many times too. I've had it that we shouldn't be joking that they will take us for granted. Imagine forgetting that HR officers or professionals are also employees. Thank you, Luatomi. It's a very interesting topic. Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been told, I think, like an employee because I spoke towards the ill treatment of employees. Imagine. My response is, of course, I'm an employee. I was wrongly terminated as a result. My heart goes out to you. But I must say, I'm proud of you. Even though I know that action you took might have cost you your livelihood, but something bigger, better, and more befitting will come your way. And this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation. Yes, there will sometimes be consequences for us being fair, for us being humane. But if all of us as HR professionals, practitioners, stand up more, for example, the HR they used to replace you, that person too is standing up for what is right and professional. After a while, they will know that all these HR people cannot be what? Crazy. Thank you so much, William. I can relate a lot with the topic. Most CEOs and managers need to hear this. Employees will be treated right because their feelings, needs, responsibilities outside work-related area. How did we get here? Legacy thinking. 2, top-down culture. 3, the myth of professionalism and assuming that being professional means being emotionless. Ladies and gentlemen, being rational does not mean you are not emotional. And being emotional does not mean it's not a negative thing. In fact, that's why one of the most critical leadership traits today is what? Emotional intelligence. So you have to be rational at all times, but you still must be emotionally intelligent. You may want to say something, but how do you say it? When do you say it? The fourth way we got here, over-reliance on metrics. We say that if it can't be measured, it can't be what? Managed. But what we now do, especially in the last few years, window of a period, is that once it can't be measured, HR, what do we do now? We ignore it. Management, what do we do now? Just because we cannot put a number to it, we pretend as if it doesn't exist. Again, this is not a case to ignore metrics, to ignore data gathering and data quantitative data analytics. No, but we are saying it must be both qualitative and quantitative. Don't be fixated only on quantitative aspects. Ladies and gentlemen, HR is not finance. HR is not accounts. Yes, we have credits and debits, but part of the credit and debits are emotional credits and emotional debits. Yes, there is financial inflow and outflow, but in addition to that, we have emotional inflow and outflow. We cannot ignore this. We cannot ignore this. And that is why this topic is timely, especially because today is what? Workers' Day, May 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll share a story. Again, I won't mention the name of the organization. I think it was 2008, 2009, thereabouts. There was this global economic meltdown. So what was fashionable was for companies to downsize. So maybe a company that they had maybe 500 staff, they will just maybe sack 150, 200, and so on and so forth. So this particular organization on the island, Lagos, Nigeria, the management called town hall meeting where they wanted to break the sad news that they were going to downsize because things were looking south. The revenues were poor, cost was up there, and so on and so forth. In this particular organization, note, they were not unionized, but the organization had been around for a while. So they had employees who had worked for like 20 years, 15 years. People who have worked together for so long. Then one of the elderly employees, note, elderly, raised his hand after the management had broken the news that they wanted to downsize, blah, blah, blah. He said he would like to ask a few questions. And he said before he asks these questions, he wants management to know that he is with them and he will help them achieve their objective. He now asked, he said, CFO, how much are we spending on salary right now? So I'll give you an hypothetical response, a fictitious response. So let's assume the CFO said we spend 50 million naira every month. And I said, okay, CFO, if we downsize, after we have downsized, how much will the salary drop to? The CFO said like 30 to 35 million. So they were currently on what? 50 million. It will drop to like 30, 35 million. So they will be saving cost savings of 50 million. The demand said, management, can you excuse us for 30 minutes? The management did not see that coming. And the staff said, yes, please excuse us to discuss. So the management, all of them, all the C-suite, they left the venue of the town hall meeting. They gave them like 1 hour. The meeting actually didn't last more than 20 minutes before they sent back for the management. What did the man suggest to his colleagues? He said, look, this is his humble suggestion. If the reason we are laying people off is not because they are not performing well, it's not because they are indolent, it's not because they are incompetent. If the reason is because we cannot afford to pay 50 million and want to pay 35 million, why can't all of us here unanimously agree to pay cut corresponding to the amount that we want to cut, such that they will not sack anybody? So the person earning 200 will not be earning 150. People, note, this was a suggestion from the employee. And all employees at that time, they agreed. Note, at that time, it wasn't sure for anybody that maybe they will be affected by the redundancy or not. But they also all felt that, look, even if I'm sure I won't be redundant, why don't we all take the hit instead of making some of us sacrificial lamb? They sent back for the management and they told the management that, SARS, you said we have cost issues. We want to drop costs from 50 million to 30 to 35 million. This is our resolution. Don't sack anybody. Reduce all of us proportionately. The management was dumbfounded. They did not anticipate that kind. Even the MD now said, ladies and gentlemen, I will take a 50% pay cut. That's how the management team started by Each one of them, one said, oh, I'll take a 40% pay cut. I will take, and you know that the C people, most organizations are top heavy. To cut the long story short, after the leaders had voluntarily suggested how much pay cut they were willing to take, the pay cut from the employee was not even as significant as it would have been normally. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 to 3 years later, this happened in 2018 and 2008. By 2010, the economic meltdown at east of, not only did the company bounce back and better, guess what? The company was even now able to pay arrears of all the pay cuts. One, they returned everybody back to their former pay. Two, they paid the arrears. And then later, they were not even increasing salary. What changed? What happened for them? While all the other companies in their industry laid off, they didn't lay off. There was what we call solidarity. But do you notice that there was a reduction in cost? This is what we are saying. What was the objective? We wanted to reduce costs. The objective is not that we want to sack people, but just because some people could think and could engage and could interact. Favor says, yeah, thank you for this. Recently, a school principal was sacked and was with a threat, was sacked then with a threat from the proprietor that will be paid only April salary, and May salary will be based on his exit. Okay. Okay, that is not discussing with the parent and staff of the school, was actually paid only the blah, blah. Okay, I don't quite get the question. So maybe after the session, I'll ask you to talk so that you can provide clarity, or read it again and type it out again so that we'll understand. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on very quickly. What are some of the things employers actually say, but often not too loud? Again, some of these things we've already said it, but let's just highlight a few just for emphasis. Sometimes they are saying, I am tired, but I'm afraid to say it. I don't want to look weak. My manager doesn't know I am caring for a sick parent. It affects my focus. Maybe somebody's mother has cancer. Somebody's mother is in IC, intensive care unit. The company talks about flexibility, but I'm still chained to a 9 to 5 mindset. HR feels, HR, that is we, the people in HR now. The employee is saying we, that we look like an arm of management, and we are not advocating for employees. Don't forget David Ulrich's model, which speaks about 4 cardinal points: administrative expert, change management, business partner, and employee advocate. That we are over tilting towards business partnering because we are now hammering profitability, revenue, cost, numbers. And we need to think again about some of these things and how we manage it. So why is denial dangerous? We know it, but just as a refresher: disengagement. Employees check out mentally, emotionally, and sadly, eventually physically. They resign. Some fall sick. Okay. There's increasingly quiet quitting. People stop going above and beyond. There's what we call discretionary effort, discretionary service. People just do only what they are told to do and nothing more. Even when they have ideas or initiatives, they just shelve it. Why bother? They don't care anymore. They are not showing concern anymore. Mental health crisis. Ignoring reality won't make it go away. People are sick more than ever before. People are, you can't imagine the economic pressure on everybody. Again, we're not blaming the organization, please. Don't get us wrong. There's global pressure from Uncle Donald Trump, for example. Trade tariffs. There's pressure. All this, even in Nigeria, kidnapping left, right, and center. Have you ever had a colleague that his family member was kidnapped? I had a colleague, his cousin was getting married. 18 people in his family were all kidnapped in one bus. 18 people, one person's family. Incidentally and thankfully, in quotes, he himself was not part of them. So when they were even trying to raise money to build the 18 people, they are like, the 18 people are the people that will have helped us to raise money. You've kidnapped all of them. Yet, that person should be coming to work, should be super productive. Ladies and gentlemen, we have turnover tsunami. People leave when they don't feel seen, when they don't feel heard or supported. And one good thing is that people are having more and more options. Some people now work completely remote. When I say completely remote, working for countries in Europe, in US, in India, from Lagos. If you are not careful, you almost think your neighbor is jobless because you don't see them go out anymore, anyhow. Working virtually, some earning dollars. So, especially people who are talented, who are capable, who are aggressively building their competencies, they are working out of jobs that don't value them as a person. It's not just the pay or the remuneration or compensation. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are some of the responsibilities we should focus on? We should not ignore. We may not have answers to every problem, but we need to create a space where conversations are what? Safe. Where it is not abnormal to have problems. Where it is not abnormal to share your problems and concerns. A friend was telling me how in a particular workplace, when women's children are sick, they are not able to say it. They are afraid. But don't children get sick, especially if you have 2, 3, 4? And you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure many of us on this call are parents, or at least we've been around children. Have you also noticed sometimes how if one child falls sick, somehow it's almost like it's contagious. 2, 3 will now fall sick almost as if in sympathy with the one that fell sick, or depending on if it's a virus or a polio or something. Don't let us make it look like having children is an organizational body or a distraction. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to ensure our policies evolve in line with the realities. Read all the organizational policies again. Are they contemporary? Some may be perfectly okay. Some you may just need to add 1 or 2 paragraphs. Again, let me say this respectfully. For those of us joining this call who are based in Lagos, you must have heard that they are going to close there will be repair works around Iyanaworo. I can't remember the number precisely, so don't quote me, but I think it's going to be like 100 to 110 or 120 days. If your organization is on the island and you have a fair idea of the dispersion of your employees, where they live, where they reside, are you already thinking of what you are going to do? Are you considering, for example, amending your resumption time maybe from 8 to 9? Or introducing some form of flexi hour? If your organization is the type that you have multiple branches, for example, in Lagos, are you already considering how some of the colleagues on the mainland may not necessarily have to be coming to the island branches every day? Maybe they come twice in a week, or trying to put a rota system. Yes, it is not your organization that is repairing the road. You are not the reason why the federal government or the state government is repairing the road. But today, you know, 1, how traffic is in Lagos. 2, we are in the rainy season and it is even aggravating the traffic situation. 3, you now say you want to lock portions of the road for repair. Don't pretend. Don't just expect that the staff will now wake up earlier than normal. Don't forget that the average person wakes up earlier than normal in Lagos. Maybe you already wake up 4:30, 4 o'clock, 5. Please, when do you now want them to wake up? There are risks associated with eating the road too early, especially when it is dark. Then there is stress. We also need to train our leaders, the people in our C-suite. Sometimes I tell HR people that one of the best things you can do for your leaders, when they say HR, what's the training plan for the year? Quickly arrange for how all your leaders will quickly go on their own training so that they can make life easy for your other people. I remember I used to work in a place. I sent my COO, Lagos Business School. It was something around leading people, Lagos Business School. When she came back, she became a better person. In fact, later, she came to me to say, Oluyemi, I know what you did. I said, if you are talking to you in the office, you are senior to me, you are older. Let professionals talk to you. Let other stakeholders talk to you. Hear it from outside. At least you know there was no way I went to them to go and tell them about your challenges and problems. Tell your chairman, your CEO, okay, you need to go to Harvard if you can afford it. Let them go for at least the first few days, weeks after they come from these courses. You see improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, HR isn't just reactive. We have to be proactive and emotionally intelligent. So note, we didn't say we have to be emotional, because that is not what we're advocating for here. We are talking about what? Emotional intelligence. So which means that you will still be what? Rational. You will still be able to make business case. Organizations that embrace realism have higher retention relatively and lower hiring costs. They see a stronger team collaboration. And when your team members collaborate, engage, deliberate, tendencies are high that they will what? They will innovate. They will bring new ideas to the table. Innovations can be revenue impacting, cost impacting, risk mitigating, and so on and so forth. You'll be able to build a culture of trust, a culture of loyalty and resilience. The productivity will go higher. People are not afraid to bring their own self to work. They know that when they have a genuine pain or concern, the organization will call them some slack and they will do their best, their very best. Let me give one example here. When I was in a particular organization, I was the head for employee relations. So there was this particular day. I typically get to work very early, 6:30, 7 a.m. That's my personal practice and preference because I am a morning person. So I get more done in the morning than in the evening. So two of my female colleagues who are my team members, they both report to me. They were having a private conversation around 7:15 in the morning. So it's not work period or anything. So you understand? So they were, when ladies are just settling in, doing some light makeup, setting up for the day. And one told the other that, oh, today is my son's prize giving day, and he's going to get 4 awards. The other one responded, oh, that's a great one. So that means you'll be going to his school maybe around 10 to join the program, the event. Say, sadly, I won't be able to go. That one was taken aback. Said, even me that my child didn't even get 1 award. 2 days ago was their prize giving day. I was there now. You that, she said she has certain deliverables. So no, she didn't say nobody will give her permission, or she was just being accountable to the reality of her work. She said, well, I went last time, I'll go next year, God willing. I passed. I had that information. So like 15 minutes after, more people are joined, things that they had moved on. And I called the mother, the lady. I asked, said, I had congratulations on your sons receiving multiple awards today. I want to help you go for that event. But I also had you talk about some assignment and tasks. And she told me what the work is. I said, what have you done so far? Send it to me. Note, I was a line manager. I said, don't worry. Personally, I will handle the assignment for you and submit it for you to the other departments that needed it. To cut the long story short, she was taken aback that as senior, was willing, in spite of my own tight schedule, but at least I could be slightly flexible because I saw the deadline in what she was doing. I took on the assignment, did it. She had done some things, got all the materials from her, what she had done, finished it, submitted. The lady went for her child's giving, prize giving, came back. Guess what? For the rest of my stay in that organization, anytime I asked the team, not talking to her in particular now, maybe I'm talking to the team that, oh, please, can I get 2 volunteers who on Saturday we need to come to work for this. Almost every time she will volunteer. But if I say, please, who can stay 1 or 2 hours extra? There's this proposal or this report. I need support. She'll just come and meet me and say, I will support you. Now, what happened there? Because I demonstrated empathy. Note, she did not come to meet me for permission. So I could have pretended as if I didn't see her. And nothing will happen. And nobody will think or assume I'm a bad person. So I'm just trying to say, when you are emotionally intelligent, you will give 1 hour, the employee will give you 10 hours back. So it's a seed, it's an investment. It's not, it's not as if you are wasting management's time or you are wasting organizational time. Ladies and gentlemen, they will perform better. So it's not about being soft, it's about being smart. We're not saying you should be a sissy, in quotes. No. Ladies and gentlemen, what does employee realism look like? Today, whether you accept it or not, whether you know it or not, no matter how well we pay relative to our revenues, many employees now have to do side hustle. I don't care what the side hustle is. And I have a friend, he's a manager, he does Uber. So he wakes up like 5 o'clock, does some trips before 8. By the time he's getting to 7, we make sure that the trip is taken, our trips that are taken to the direction of his work. He will close at 7 or 8, we'll do Uber again 2-3 hours. Then Saturday, he does Uber. Sunday after church, he does Uber. A manager. He has 3 children. He has bills to pay. So don't assume that it's only junior staff or certain categories of people. Are you even aware of the side hustles of some of these your staff? And I'm not talking about side hustles that are competing or conflict of interest, but that is part of the realism. So don't just abruptly, if there is no genuine emergency, tell somebody to come on Saturday. If there is no genuine emergency, why? You may be taking that person away from his or her side hustle. Maybe the person is an MC somewhere, is a DJ somewhere, is Alagaduro somewhere, is a caterer somewhere. Employees may be grieving. Ladies and gentlemen, they might have lost a loved one. Some of your employees are single parents, both women and men. Some are divorced, going through divorce. Some are working multiple roles. You can't be oblivious of these realities. Ladies and gentlemen, some of our employees want more than a paycheck. They want purpose. They want purpose. They are looking for something bigger than cash. This is not about entitlement. It is life, and work must make room for it. Let's call it work-life integration. Let's call it work-life balance. Let's say, let's get personal with our colleagues. Let's engage with them, ladies and gentlemen. So what do we need to do? What's the shift the HR practitioner, the HR people, management need to make? Enough of just doing top-down memos, issuing communiques, directives, instruction. We must have what? And encourage conversations. And when I say conversations, not that you have predetermined the outcome. You are just calling a conversation to make it look like we are getting buy-in. We must move from policy policing to empathy and flexibility. Let's be reasonable. Let's be emotionally intelligent. Not everything is query. Not everything is sack. Let me give one example. I used to work in an organization that, we have a validity period for sanctions. So this particular employee committed an offense and it was final written warning. If you commit another offense in a space of 6 months and you get another final written warning, because the first sanction is still valid, instead of you getting final written warning with the second offense, you will get automatic dismissal because of the lifespan. So after 6 months, that sanction expires. And if you commit that kind of offense, you now get final written warning. So this particular staff was now told to come to work on a Saturday, which is a valid request because that organization is a utility company and we work 24/7. The guy is a junior staff. He just told his colleagues that he can't come home, that Saturday is his immediate younger brother's wedding. And this was true. Meanwhile, what he should have done, either approach the manager, or if for one reason or the other is not afraid of the manager, approach this manager's manager or call HR, provide minimal evidence, and will have maybe arranged a swap for him. So just call the bluff of the manager, which is not good. He was given a query and they initiated the disciplinary process. So in my role, when I saw the query, I called the guy. I told you that before I do anything, I will call and have conversation. And the guy said, sir, yes, it is true. This is it. This is that. He sent me pictures of the wedding, sent me pictures of the ivy. He said, if we follow textbook, this guy is a gunner. Apologies to our Arsenal fan. I mean, this guy is exiting the organization. You know what I did? This was not in the textbook. I personally called the line manager that issued the query. I begged him. I apologized. I took the fault and the blame of the junior employee on me. I said, sir, please, I'm asking for a favor. Transfer this offense from this staff, transfer it to me. And the guy said, I was like one step senior to that person. He said, oh God, no, I can't transfer. I said, no. Eventually, I persuaded the guy. I explained the situation that this guy, will you be happy that we sack this guy based on this? He said, no, we are not sacking him based on we are sacking him based on the process. I said, no, now. Eventually, the man said, what can we do to be saved? I said, I will need you to withdraw your query. In other words, write that you are stepping down the query. The guy was like, seriously? I said, yes. Because he said, no, I should just bury the matter. I said, no, I can't just bury the matter. I won't break process. So he now said, okay, he will write to step down the query, but on one condition. I said, what's the condition? He said the staff must come to head office for counseling for 6 weeks, and I must be the one to do the counseling. That's how he gave me work. Ladies and gentlemen, I took that punishment. I provided counseling for the guy. We were meeting 7 to 7:45 every Monday for 6 weeks. Note, this is not in the textbook, in employer book or anything, but I was able to save the day. Much later, when the guy now got a better job, bigger job, I was leaving the organization, he didn't have to. He came to my office and in the presence of over 20 other employees, he prostrated full on the ground and he gave me a gift. He said, sir, you saved my job. That I didn't give you anything that time because it will look like I'm giving you to compromise. And I don't know him from anywhere. I could have followed the textbook, policy. Even other people that had that, they were like, HR trial. That they didn't know that HR can be this humane. Ladies and gentlemen, we must move from just being professional to being authentic and being supported and supportive. We must also move from blanket solutions towards personalized approaches. Yes, I know we like this uniformity, the same thing. But please, as much as possible, let's consider alternative options. If the alternative option does not break any law, does not make life miserable for our team, our colleagues, does not compromise on productivity, don't just say, hey, we've not done it before. We've not done it before. Ladies and gentlemen, HR superpower isn't just forms. Our superpower is not just frameworks or templates. Ladies and gentlemen, part of our superpower is our ability to listen and to adapt. We are people. We are people. What do you want to do now, ladies and gentlemen? Audit your culture. Are your policies people first or paperwork first? Please train your team. Before we're in second quarter now, if I'm not mistaken, that training can even be 15 minutes, can be a small YouTube video, it can be a pep talk. Empathy is a skill. Teach it. If people don't have it, it's not a problem. Teach it. Then normalize check-ins. Not all your meetings must be NPR, QPR, all our management meetings. What was our target for last week? Why is there a shortfall? Why has this not been done? Can you have more team building sessions? Can you have, even in our regular meetings, maybe allocate 10 minutes for check-in? Can you, and I've done this before, I shared all the junior staff to all the C-suites. I gave them 1 month. You call every staff one after the other. I gave them like some information about each of the staff that are not confidential, so that they will have something to talk about. I gave them a list of possible questions. How are you? How are your children doing? Then we now mandated the leaders to do a small report. You needed to see how that built camaraderie. Check in. It's not as if this is work. Yes, it is work, but why can't it also be fun? Yes, it is work. Why can't it be life? I remember another case, maybe 1 or 2 examples. I will wrap up here, and then I'll go to the chat session and read your messages, and then we'll take comments, contributions as we close. A member of the organization, he was sick. He was in the hospital. This person was in the hospital for like 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that after work every day, I will drive to the hospital for more than 2 months? I'm not joking. I didn't have to do it. That was not my job. I wasn't doing it during work hours. In fact, after church on Sunday, I will go there and visit him. If I have a training or something on Saturday, or I have an OMB, anything I do, on my way, I go and visit him. When this guy was discharged and came to work, he came to my office in the presence of many people. I don't know why people like prostrating for me. He prostrated. He said, sir. I said, no, I was just doing my job. He said, sir, I know people's job. This is not your job. This is who you are as a person. He said, I visited him more than many of his family members. That only his wife visited him more. Why? This guy was sick. He had an accident, and he had the accident on the job. In fact, and this is not something I could be reporting that I visited, because they will say, don't you have work? Even union members, they saw me so much that they said, they said in Yoruba, they said HR, in other words, you are a person. Ladies and gentlemen, we must encourage safe spaces, anonymous feedbacks, listening sessions, mental health support. We must walk the talk. Don't just post about well-being, practice it. That's why some of the personal examples I've shared that not that somebody told me, that I was involved in. Again, I'm not trying to show that I'm perfect. I've gotten all my human interactions right. I will have made mistakes, no doubt about it. But as much as possible, we need to take action. Let people know, so that the day you will take hard stand against people, they will be able to count 3 great things you have done for them before one hammer came on them. They will be able to say, look at the commendation letter that HR has issued. Not that the first interaction is what do you call it? Query letter. There was one program I initiated in one of the places I worked one time too. I said, this month, all line managers, show me evidence of a commendation email or letter you issue to every of your staff, and it must be genuine. Do you know that some leaders struggled? They say, what will I commend that guy about? I said, but if this guy commits a mistake now, in seconds, you will copy HR in the query. I said, do commendation letter, and don't do everything in one day, so that they won't know that it was a planned event. Because the moment the employees know it's a plan, they will know that you are not even writing it from your heart, that you are mandated to write it. More than ever before, let's pay attention to our employee surveys and the kind of questions we ask. Some of us do this employee survey, but we don't ask the right questions or a robust set of questions. Let's foster open communication, develop employee-centric policies, provide training and resources. Let's lead by what? Examples. If HR wants to be truly human, it has to stop pretending that employees live in a vacuum. We are not a virus. That the workplace of the future belongs to the organization and HR leaders who see their people clearly, meet them where they are, and build trust from inside out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, which I don't expect, I expect more of contributions and comments, but questions are welcome, and people on the call are also free to respond to questions, if any. I want to thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this session insightful. I hope there are key takeaways, some things we will do slightly differently going forward. Thank you for joining this session. So please, all you need to do is raise your hands and I will unmute you so that you can make your inputs. So I already see Falilat Umar. After Falilat, we'll take Uncle K. Falilat, please, you can unmute. Falilat, then Uncle K, then Beth.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my sister. Good evening, ma'am.
The lecture was very interesting. This is like our problem virtually in all organizations, particularly our own organization. But I just want to appreciate my madam, that's the head of HR. She's right here in this group. Just like this visit you're talking about, that when someone is sick, when you put to bed, she's always the first person that want to go, not even before she became the head of ER. I think, like you said, that someone was telling you that it's an inborn thing, it's not a HR thing. She too, she has that personality in her. Once something is wrong with you, she's always there to go and see you before she even became the HR boss. So I just want to appreciate that she's in this group. That's why I'm calling. And again, about the training thing that you say, most times we should send the bosses for training, all this Harvard training and all of that, so that they can tell them themselves what they want. Bro, they will go for that training, and when they come back, they will forget about us that's supposed to go for this training as well. They will finish all the money. They'll forget about us, the junior ones that are supposed to go for training. So I would think if there's anybody that should go for training, we should go for that training first, then maybe think about them later, because the leaders are not HR people, so they don't have emotional intelligence or empathy. So that's my point of view. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Falilat, for chiming in.
Okay.
And again,
Yeah.
I join you in celebrating your leader. Congratulations, kudos.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you have the floor. I can't seem to hear you, Uncle K. Is it my network or your network, sir?
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now. Proceed, sir.
Okay.
Please proceed.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this presentation. By the way, we all prostrate to you because you are very tall, and that is why we do that. Anyway, really, what you have said today is, to me, I think it resonates more with behavioral tendencies of people who have empathy, okay, as against people that have maybe the textbook prowess and who just apply it in the office. So how do you, if that be the case, it now tends to be more of individual intricacies, individual tendencies and behaviors to manage the work requirements. So how do you now begin to look at those two different personalities? How do you apply that at work? Because the personality you've described now sways more towards your own level of empathy, which you have applied rather on the job, use it to help people without breaking the law, while some other people will not maybe show that empathy and just look at the book squarely and say, this is what they say, this is what this says, and then that's all. So how do you begin to, if you are on the other side, how do you begin to come to the side of the empathy? Thank you.
Thank you so much. You will see that during the session, I was unequivocally calling for training. And the good thing with emotional intelligence, while I agree that some measure of it is natural, inborn, people are just born like that, or maybe their culture, their environment, their society, their family, their religion has predisposed certain people to, so to speak, for lack of a better word, kind, compassionate. Many other people have also been conditioned to be hardliners, maybe streets, how they grew up with, the settings of their parents, those kind of things. But we are saying in the organization, from an HR perspective, part of our leadership toolkit is empathy. And this is, for example, if you are doing employee survey, you also want to measure how the employees perceive how empathetic the leaders, line managers, and supervisors are. And you can make it one of your mandatory training programs that you run everybody through. And the other aspect of it is, as HR now, providing support for leadership, management, and all the supervisors in the organization, it is our job to also create programs that will, I don't want to use the word force, but that will encourage people to support and be humane. So I gave you an example. I said I did a 1-month program where I legislated that all line managers must find within that month a way to issue a commendation letter personal to their staff. Email, can be a letter, email, and they must copy HR, and they shouldn't send to all the staff in one day so that the staff will not know that is a legislated instruction. Guess what? That month, something shifted in the organization. Even, guess what, sir? Even the people who were writing the commendation letter, even though they were requested to write it, but because they were also told that the commendation letter must not be like flattery, it must be real. So the process they were using to type the letter, they now have to think and reflect. So it forced them to reflect on what are the good sides of this guy, what are the great parts of this guy. So they too now saw that, oh boy, I've just been focusing a little excessively on his on the employee's weakness or downsides. So even the process of writing that commendation changed something in the people writing it. Of course, the people who received the letter, it changed something. There was another time, maybe like 6 months ago, I did something like that again. This time I said it must be handwritten. So we gave all HODs sticky notes. We told them that write this, the name of each employee, write something kind, something that you like. It may be work related or not work related. Then give it to HR. We had known. So the night before, we had gotten one of our colleagues delegated. That person stuck it on everybody's table. So by the time people resumed the next day, they were just everybody. So people were like, what did Oga write about you? What did Oga write about you? Goodwill. So you can create things like that will force people to come out of their shell, show their emotions, empathy, and humanity. Even some of our, what do we call it, TGIFs. So it's not, yes, we'll dance, we eat, we do games, but something like that, you call people out, say, okay, let's say, what are the strong points of this person? What are these people, this person doing well? And so on and so forth. So these are the ways. And then we'll keep doing it. If you need to do like one-on-one coaching, reach out. Some of these orgas, that they are super tough or extra. Say, sir, this is the perception about you. We know that this is your interest. You are trying to drive productivity and show up production. But can you consider this? Can you consider this? It's a journey. So don't expect a quantum improvement or an instantaneous improvement. Okay, I hope I've been somewhat helpful. Beth, please, your hand may be down, but please still say something, please. Then we'll go to Dr. Olumide.
Good evening. Good evening, Doctor. Good evening. Thank you so much for the session. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go on now.
Ah, well, I believe this resonates with almost every HR in this room, especially when you're not the business owner yourself. Okay. So like one of the listeners said, she said she was told to resign or she was fired from her job because she acted as an employee. Which yes, we're all if I am fireable, if you can sack me, then I believe I'm an employee, even if I'm going to be. So I tell people that HR are like the lawyers. We are the ones advocating for the employees, the staff. So something happened recently in my workplace. So a line manager was on leave and somebody was promoted. Somebody under her was promoted and she was not informed. She was not formally informed about this thing. And she came back. A letter was not given. Even the person that was promoted to be a deputy, a assistant, didn't even tell her. So she spent up to 2 weeks. So having a conversation with her, and I'm like, what is this other person doing? And she was like, do I have an assistant? I don't even know I have an assistant. I'm like, are you for real? I thought you did have, you have an assistant. They didn't tell you. And so I went on leave. So I was put on suspension because of something that was done wrongly. And I stood out to say, we can't do this. But I think my management keeps asking me, am I for them? So that word keeps coming up when we are having internal meetings. And I'm like, I know this practice. I know these are not the way things are being done. Then they keep asking. So this manager came back and she noticed that so this happened, and she sent an email. So she copied the the MD and copied the head of HR. And so in all of this, the head of HR is not really HR, right? So it's based on what would I call it? Obi and Sons. So Obi and Sons, so somebody to just spearhead the HR
Mm,
operation. So,
mm,
and I said, oh yes, she's calling out HR and she's doing the right thing. So what I do is I tell the employees, you have rights. Most of them don't even know that they have rights. Most of them just
mm,
feel if I speak up, my salary may not be paid. And so she sent a mail. And let me just summarize this thing. Now, and I'm saying what we did because I wasn't around when this thing happened. And I'm like, yes, she's actually speaking the truth. What we did not, I don't know if she was formally informed about our deputy. But um before we even promote somebody under her, she's supposed to even give us recommendation, first of all. And she's supposed to be
mm,
aware that this person is being promoted. Now the person is no longer just a staff, is now your assistant, or even if going to another department in total. So
yeah.
she sent a mail, copied the MD that she wanted explanation, and she's talking about the line of communication being broken. And guess
Mm,
what? They sent a mail to her saying that she's showing level of insubordination. This is a line manager, level of insubordination. And the next thing, she doesn't want, she should resign. So she should step down from her title, from her office. Now the so-called deputy is now going to be the head in that unit, while she will still be in the unit, more like trying to frustrate. But now, my own issue now is having a conversation with management. What I am being asked is, which side are you on? And I keep telling my manager that I am for the truth and for the right thing. The right thing wasn't done. She was not informed. This thing, and it's more like bullying. And I've noticed that management sometimes would like to bully because they say he that pays the piper, the takes the tune. Management sometimes like to bully, and some staff don't even know that they have rights. Some don't even know that there's something about. They don't even know about court. Suing the company to court and all that. They don't even know anything about litigation.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if we as HR can speak up regardless, so you are more like soldiers in the battlefield. Sir, please advise me at this particular point, because sometimes I just look for an open space to just go to and scream and shout, because when I can't really just keep quiet where things are not done right. Please, sir, right now, what can I do? Should I keep keeping quiet?
Okay.
Should I keep short? Or should I just turn another eye? I don't know.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. I suspect that Dr. Olede will also respond to what you have said, in addition to the contributions last week. You have to go, my brother.
Anyway, I was going to contribute, but I can also make one or two comments concerning it. Good evening, Dr. Adosho, and thank you for the presentation, the good presentation you made. I think the first comment I want to make is that HR job is not for lily-livered. Unfortunately for us, the economy, lack of job, everything has turned us to compromise, that we don't want to rock the boat. I'd rather keep my job than do the right thing. And where we now have someone else who is doing the right thing, is the one that have to take the brunt of what others who are not doing the right thing. That the HR of my friend doesn't do all this rubbish you are doing here, because that one, anything goes. But I want to also say that we have a responsibility as HR to help management. Business owners are selling without structure or structure, will be there forever. They will, but we also can help them putting structures in place in terms of processes and procedures and communicating them. Are you getting me? So that if they are aware, there will not be gaps, because the infantry, there's this ego that we took a decision and you are now. In fact, some of those examples you gave, we naturally look as if it's instigating people against management. But if the rule says that anytime management take a decision, the communication should go through HR or whatever, and there's a management buying in. Even if they are taking that decision and you're not in the meeting, it will still come to your table to pass it, because ordinarily a letter should be issued. Except in a situation where everything comes from the office of the MD. And even at that, documentation of processes and procedures help a great deal, especially when it's not challenging the authority of those in management. That is the process. It is issued, you give a copy, go to this or that, and you are an advocate of both sides, both these employees and employers. That's your job. And when the going is good, they praise you. When it's not good, you take the brunt. That is HR for you. But what we want to do is that they can't afford to become what do you call them now? A right activist who is serving as a pressure group for employees. You are going to run into troubles. For example, the idea of saying they don't know their right. There's a way of also communicating that without it looking as if you are the one championing it. And that was exactly perhaps what led to the issue of, okay, you go on suspension, or the other person too. Even you, if they have taken a decision, I know there are ways to write, and they feel that you are making a point, and for you to look as if you are confronting all these business owners, SME, they don't like it when you look as if you are saying they don't have authority, when he sees you also as a star. And they are better with, do you know that writing it should be the last option. Engagement is proper. Can you walk up to somebody that is not even the MD, maybe close among these, and say, please, I have a complaint. I was shocked this morning to come and so, and so, and so. And I feel, well, I don't have anything against the girl, she's a hard working or whatever. But I think informing me would be better. How do you want the person to, that person also will feel bad and takes your case to MD I think we didn't inform them. So next time we should do so. However, I've told her not to worry. MB came said, well, let's call her right away. And I go, sorry, I learned you are not have informed. That's my error. I take responsibility for that. And but when you write, the moment you write, you have made it official, and it's going to be seen as if you are challenging authority. And what will be at back of the management is that, if she goes scot-free, we are already legalizing everybody to become a fighter, a right artist. You understand? So that is where the person made an error. Engagement works better. And somewhere, someone among the leaders will actually listen to that such a issue that you are bringing up and cancel you. In fact, if you are going to write, it will tell you the best way to write. So at the end of the day, you not incur the wrath of my men. So I will aspire that we have a responsibility to advocate, but at the same time, we should apply wisdom in advocating, do a lot of engagement. When you have focus group and staff forum, there's an opportunity to also educate staff. When they have grievances, this is how to do it, and let management know. If it's coming from such places, you will not be tagged as beyond, instigating them or, championing whatever. Let them have forum. The issue of private owner or business owners, we don't have a choice. We have to continue to manage it because they even constitute the largest majority of employer now. And except we don't want our people to get jobs. So until they have understanding of being able to work like a typical, blue chip where everything works, we will continue to educate them. And that's why I mentioned as I close that if we bring in processes, procedures, find a way of selling to management, are you getting me? Let them have a buy-in. The moment they have it and they are implementing it, it removes a lot of stress from you because the moment they sign off, at least 80%, 70% they will be implementing. It will not be offhand that they'll just wake up one day and do anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morakinyo Oloyede. This is from a wealth of experience, knowledge, insights. You have summed it up. I really have nothing to add. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Is profitable to direct. Yes, we fight, but we fight intelligently, emotionally intelligently. I'll wrap up this session by reading a sentence or a brief from my sister and colleague, Pearl. Pearl says here, HR are not police people waiting to catch people in the wrong and punishing them. We are people managers who should inspire and bring out the best in employees. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been wonderful. I've unmuted any and everybody if you want to say anything, including good night. But thank you for joining us tonight. I've enjoyed this session and I've enjoyed your cooperation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oluyemi.
Thank
you so much, sir. Good night.
I'm protecting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doctor,
Thank you,
for the
Doctor.
wonderful session and impartation.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Doctor.
much.
Thank you, sir.